Tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern over on Jaguar Gator 8, a new college football video drops. Also at 9 p.m. Eastern, join me live on Twitch where we'll talk about anything and everything in our weekly Q&A stream. Link to join below. And now, on with our feature presentation. Over the weekend, I had a fan reach out to me on Twitter, at JaguarGator9NFL, and ask if I would do an episode of Dumb Decisions on the play that transpired this past Saturday during week 1 of the preseason. For those who did not watch the fourth quarter of the interstate rivalry between the Miami Dolphins and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, here's a quick synopsis of what happened. The Dolphins were leading by 2 points with 1:38 left in the game, and the Buccaneers, facing 3rd and 11, could not pick up the first down, as Kyle Trask's throw to Kenyon Barner got absolutely nothing. However, there was a flag on the play, with the flag being against Tampa Bay. For Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel, he now had a choice. Do I decline the penalty, bringing up 4th and 11, or do I accept and bring up 3rd and 21? The answer on the surface should be obvious. Bring up 4th down, since you only rely on your defense to make 1 stop instead of 2, and since the distance needed on the 4th down play is more than the distance needed on the average of the 2 third down plays. Well, McDaniel, in his first ever game as a head coach, left a lot of people scratching their heads when he opted to accept the penalty. It led to a predictable result. The Buccaneers kept the drive alive by picking up some yards on 3rd down, and then by converting on 4th down. Now, despite the Dolphins hanging on for the win, as the Bucs were unable to score after keeping the drive alive, this was an incredibly dumb decision. It was absolutely moronic. However, it's only a preseason game. The game literally does not count, and some coaches coach differently in the preseason versus the regular season. Maybe McDaniel wanted to see more reps from his defense, especially since if the Dolphins got the ball back, they were just going to take a knee and run out the clock, and you're not learning anything from that. Maybe McDaniel wanted to see how his guys could respond to adversity. Whatever the case, unless you do something that actively puts the games that count at risk, like leaving your starting quarterback in for all 4 quarters, and doing nothing but running the triple option where he keeps the ball, thereby increasing the chances that he gets injured, no coaching decision in a preseason game is going to make dumb decisions. I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy. For a coach to make dumb decisions, he would have to do something like what Mike McDaniel did, but do it in a regular season game, and then provide the dumbest explanation possible as to why he did it. But no coach is dumb enough to actually try this in a regular season game, right? No coach, especially one that made it to the Super Bowl, would be stupid enough to accept a penalty to bring up 3rd down again instead of letting it be 4th down, right? Well, I'm sure you can see where this one is going. Because in 1980, the Los Angeles Rams and head coach Ray Malavasi left everyone scratching their heads by doing one of the stupidest things I've ever seen after a penalty. And it was so bad that it may have cost them their entire season. November 8th, 1980. It's week 8 and the midway point of the NFL season, and we have an absolutely critical NFC West matchup on our hands down in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium between the Atlanta Falcons and the Los Angeles Rams. On paper, this was one of the biggest games of the entire season, as the stakes could not be any higher for a week 8 matchup. Whoever won this game would have first place in the NFC West, and at the halfway point, would have the edge in terms of getting an automatic bye into the divisional round. The Rams enter this game at 5-2, boasting one of the best offenses in all of football. Through 7 games, the Rams scored 208 points, averaging 29.7 points per game, which was not only the top total in the NFC, but was just 2 points off of the San Diego Chargers at 210 points for the best total in the entire NFL. Combine that with a defense that was in the top half of the league, and the defending NFC champion and participants at Super Bowl 14 in their first season in Anaheim had the 5th best point differential in the league. Los Angeles was also playing some incredible football as of late, as they looked like the hottest team in the entire NFL. After an 0-2 start, they rattled off 5 straight wins, outscoring their opponents 179-84 in that stretch for an average of 19 points per game, where they were averaging just under 36 points per game. If they won this game against the Falcons, then talk of them possibly repeating as the conference champions would really heat up, if it wasn't heating up already. And to keep their winning streak alive and to keep their hold on first place in the NFC West, they had to play this team right here, the 4-3 Atlanta Falcons, and a team that had never won their division before in franchise history. Atlanta was also looking like a strong contender this season, as through 7 games, their 188 points scored ranked 3rd in the NFC, thanks to one of the best quarterbacks in football in Steve Bartkowski. Much like the Rams, the Falcons enter this game playing red-hot offensive football, as they scored at least 41 points in 2 of their last 3 games entering this matchup against the Rams, winning 3 of their last 4 in the process. And in their most recent game, a 41-14 victory over their arch-rival, the New Orleans Saints, the Falcons played arguably their best game in franchise history. Steve Bartkowski had a career day, throwing 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. The team forced 4 turnovers while never turning it over once themselves, and they scored the final 34 points of the game in what was an absolute bloodbath. 2 of the hottest teams in the NFL were squaring off for a shot at first place in the division, and for football-loving fans across the country, this was the game of the week in the NFC. No doubt about it. And early on, in this battle between 2 of the best offenses in football, to the surprise of many, neither offense could get anything going, as it was a pretty sloppy affair. On the Rams' first drive of the game, it ended with Vince Ferragamo throwing an interception into the hands of Falcons linebacker Al Richardson. However, the Falcons were unable to capitalize off of that, as on their next drive, it ended with Steve Bartkowski throwing an interception in the end zone to eventual Pro Bowl cornerback Rod Perry. And then, the Rams were unable to capitalize off of that, as on their next drive, once again, Vince Ferragamo threw an interception, with this one being picked and returned by Roland Lawrence. 3 straight drives resulting in an interception. Surely, someone's got to score and capitalize on these mistakes, right? Well, considering the fact that the Falcons were starting this drive with incredible field position, thanks to the pick and the return by Lawrence, it seemed like the Falcons would be poised to do so. If the Rams defense could somehow hold Atlanta to 3 points, chalk that up as an absolute win. First down, and the carry goes to Lynn Kane. Not a whole lot there, as he picks up a yard, maybe 2. Second down, and the ball goes to James Mayberry. Once again, not a whole lot there, as he only manages to pick up a couple of yards. Time for the all-important 3rd down play. Bartkowski gives it to Lynn Kane up the middle, and the Rams get the stop, with Kane barely being able to make it back to the line of scrimmage. Bit of questionable play calling to call 3 straight runs when you have Steve Bartkowski as your quarterback, but whatever the case, the Rams are able to make the stop, forcing Atlanta to send out their field goal unit and holding them to just 3 points. Yes, there's a flag on the play, but it's on Atlanta for illegal motion, so it doesn't matter, because the Rams will just decline this penalty to bring up 4th down and hold the Falcons after 3 runs went absolutely nowhere. Let's just hear the referee's call to confirm this.
Motion number 68, offense, 3rd down.
So the Rams accept the penalty.
Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Call me Destiny's Child, because all I'm saying after this is no, 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 no. You accepted the penalty? The Falcons were bringing their field goal unit out onto the field, and you're giving them a second chance by accepting a 5-yard penalty? Well, I'm sure this decision will come back to haunt the Rams in any way whatsoever.
Tight end Miller is in motion. Francis and Jenkins on the left. Bartkowski is looking Miller, and he's got Jackson for a touchdown. George, an honest question. Would you second-guess the Rams?
Well, I said it at the top right away. You don't give them another shot down there. You settle for 3 points or possibly blocking a field goal. Whenever they're giving you the ball, my rule then was whenever they're giving you the ball, I want to take it. I don't want to commit a foul. I don't want to give them another shot.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something to look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something to look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Los Angeles Rams head coach Ray Malavasi. On one hand, Malavasi deserves a ton of credit for his tenure in Los Angeles, even if it ended on rather shaky ground, with the team going 8-17 over the final 2 seasons. He was dealt an almost impossible hand in 1978, when he took over the job in the middle of the preseason following the firing of George Allen, and came in and guided the Rams to a 12-4 record and a spot in the NFC Championship. Then, he followed that up by guiding the Rams in 1979 to their first Super Bowl in franchise history, where they almost pulled off one of the biggest upsets in pro football history at Super Bowl 14 over the Pittsburgh Steelers, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. On the other hand, he made some very questionable coaching decisions, with this one perhaps being the most egregious one of them all, because let's be honest, there is no defending this decision, especially after you hear Malavasi's explanation for it, which only makes this worse. So with that being said, let's take a look at why accepting a penalty on 3rd down instead of bringing up 4th down, where the offense is not going for it and where they will not score a touchdown, is a bad idea. And before I go any further, of course, this play made a huge impact on the game, and on the season. The Falcons wound up winning this game by a final score of 13-10. Obviously, this play happened so early in the game that it's tough to speculate how the rest of it would have played out. But if you assume that the Falcons score 3 points instead of 7 on this drive, then the Rams would have won 10-9, meaning that the Rams would have finished the season with a 12-4 record and would have won the NFC West by a game over the Atlanta Falcons, who would have been 11-5. So yeah, this play meant a whole lot, as it literally impacted the game and the entire season and complexion of the playoffs. NFL history might change if Malavasi just does the smart thing here and doesn't turn off his brain when deciding what to do about this penalty. And it's rather obvious why accepting the penalty is a bad idea. With these decisions, I like to look at everything from a risk-reward standpoint. Did the reward of doing this, if it worked out, outweigh the risk you were going to be taking? And in this case, it's very obvious that the safer play was a significantly better play. Suppose you decline the penalty and bring a 4th down. Remember, the Falcons were going to be kicking the field goal. They had their unit out there and ready to go. Falcons head coach Lehman Bennett flat out said after the game, "If we had been in a 4th down situation, I'd have gone for the field goal. I'm just glad we got another chance to try for the touchdown, especially considering how things worked out." As a side note, if you want to learn more about Lehman Bennett's time with the Falcons as their head coach, click the card in the upper right corner. This would be a completely different situation if the Falcons were going for it. 1 play on the 2-yard line versus 2 plays at the 7-yard line is a legitimate debate, and I probably would have taken the penalty in that spot. But when going for the field goal? No way. If you decline the penalty and bring a 4th down, you concede 3 points. Considering the fact that the Falcons started the drive in the red zone, that is a massive win for your defense. However, if you accept the penalty and allow the Falcons, a team that possesses one of the best offenses in football, a second chance, you risk the highly likely possibility of giving up 7 points. Sure, there's a chance with the turnover that you can allow 0 points, but you have a much better chance of allowing 7 than you do 0. Obviously, the difference between 7 and 3 is greater than the difference between 3 and 0. And in a game like this where you expect every point to count, that weighs heavily in favor of declining the penalty. But let's just look at it from an odds perspective. The Falcons called 70 plays in last week's game against the New Orleans Saints. They turned it over 0 times. So far in this game, they called 13 plays and turned it over once. This meant that the Falcons turned it over once in their last 83 plays. So based on recent history, the odds of the Falcons turning the ball over were somewhere in the ballpark of 1.2%. The odds of the Falcons, with Steve Bartkowski at quarterback, picking up 7 yards to reach the end zone? Yeah, they were significantly higher than that. It's just common sense. If you're watching a football game with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, and it's 3rd and 7, in your mind, do you think it's more likely that they convert the play or that they turn it over? It's the former, no doubt. So why Ray Malavasi did this and gave the Falcons new life for seemingly no reason, I have no clue. The good news is that after the game, Ray Malavasi faced the music and talked about this decision. When Malavasi spoke, he said quite bluntly, "I screwed up." Alright, that's awfully refreshing. I wasn't expecting that. Good for him. A coach admitting to the press when he made a mistake and taking the blame. I have to say, I really admire that. Society would be a much better place if people would just admit to when they screwed up and when they messed up. And I'm sure the players have tons of respect for a coach that openly tells the world, "Yeah, that one's on me. My bad." Now, if that was all that Malavasi said, we'd be good to go. However, Malavasi felt the need to continue and delivered an explanation as to why he committed this screw-up. And this explanation makes things significantly worse. Because Malavasi said on this, "I was misinformed. I thought it was a 10-yard penalty instead of a 5-yard penalty. And I was thinking that a sack would knock them out of field goal range." Wait, hold up. So you knew it was an illegal motion penalty, which was never a 10-yard penalty, and you thought it was a 5-yard penalty? I'm not going to harp on that since you admitted that you screwed up. You knew you were wrong and you just said a brain fart at a bad time, which happens to everyone. But let's talk about the second part, which was not the brain fart. You accepted the penalty because you thought you could knock them out of field goal range? Your reasoning for taking the penalty was because you genuinely thought you could hold them to 0 points by forcing them from the red zone to punt? I'm sorry, what? Let's think about this for a second. Even if you get a sack on the play, it's still a kick within 35 yards. Unless the snap goes over the quarterback's head, you're not taking the Falcons out of field goal range on the play. No one is punting in this situation. Suppose you get a sack that loses 5 or 6 yards, and it sends kicker Tim Mazzetti up from the spot. Let's see what happened the last time Mazzetti tried a field goal from that distance. Of course he drilled it. Of course he did. He's a professional kicker. Every kicker is going to have the leg strength to hit it from there. It's like if you're playing a competitive golf match for money with your opponent hits a terrible shot, and you let him redo it for no penalty, because you think if the wind is blowing 30 miles per hour backwards, even though it hasn't all day, that he's not going to reach the green anyways, even though he's literally 10 yards away from it, and it's just a simple chip. It is genuinely confusing. In other words, your explanation was worse than if you just said nothing at all and just left it at, "I screwed up." Because now, not only are you known as the coach that screwed up the game, but you're known as the coach that genuinely thought you could take a team out of field goal range when they were deep in the red zone. I wish I could say that this was the most confusing thing a Rams coach has ever done in a game, but the 1985 NFC Championship still exists, where the Rams ran out the clock, trailing and in the red zone. So if you want to learn more about that disaster, click the card in the upper right corner. But this might be number 2. So what do we learn from all this? If your opponent is going to take the 3 points from a close distance, just say thank you and let them take the 3 points. If your options are to decline the penalty to bring up a 4th down field goal, or accept the penalty to give them new life on 3rd down, assuming that the team is not going for it on 4th down, and assuming that backing them up won't legitimately put them out of field goal range, like moving them back from the 35 to the 45 would, then for the love of God, decline the penalty. Don't get cute and rely on some crazy hypotheticals when you don't have to and when you really shouldn't. And sometimes it's better to just say, "I screwed up," and leave it at that, instead of digging yourself into a 50-foot hole that you can't get out of and that makes you somehow look even worse. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at Jaguar Gator 9. To see college football videos, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.